Hey, what is up, guys? It is Slick or Slick Muff here, back again with another video. And before we get into this one, I'm just going to play you a quick 1-minute clip from a podcast featuring a individual named Osama who works at WB Games Montreal. Listen very carefully about him talking about switching from working from one game to another and his reference about several games being in development at WB Games Montreal. So be sure to pay attention to that. Here is the short clip. Cut one, go.
Cool. And you work for Warner Brothers?
That's absolutely right. Warner Brothers
Montreal?
Games in Montreal. I've been here for almost 2 years. You can't really say much about the projects I'm working on, except that they're really, really cool. The project I just recently left, because there are a couple of projects in the studio, is the only thing I could say about it, it's a major console game, open world in the DC universe.
In what universe?
The DC universe, the DC Comics universe.
Nice.
So that's really awesome. It's really, really cool. But I can't really say anything else.
Okay, so
I'm sorry about that. It's too
open
early.
game.
It's not announced yet, but it's really kick-ass.
I'm really tempted to speculate and try to get you to just narrow it down to which DC universe or which DC character it might be. No, that's
I'm
cool.
sorry. I can neither confirm nor deny. But you feel free to guess all you want.
Yeah.
I'll nod or I'll shake my head on the podcast.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'm just gonna say it's a Batman game, and we'll just move on.
I'm either nodding or shaking my head right now.
Okay, so a couple things here. The first thing that we notice is Osama talking about switching from one game to another, and that there is, quote, a couple, end quote, games in development at WB Games Montreal. So if you recall, the rumors from several years ago is that they were doing 2 games. And then we heard about this Suicide Squad game and that it was canceled. And a lot of people, myself included, started thinking, well, are they going to replace that with something? Are they going to all focus on one game? What's the deal? And as Osama references here, he was working on one game and now he's being switched to another, maybe because that first game is, being winded down in production. And they're a huge studio. I mean, over 400 employees. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Switches happen a lot in game development, but it has been 6 years since their past game, coming along 2019. So I think that in terms of a window that we can expect a game, whether it be their first or their second, if there is 2, as he says that there is. So it's not really a question of if, it's just a matter of what the second one is. Now, of course, we've, highly speculated that a Batman game is the first one, and, this podcast host actually kind of alludes to that as well. As for the second game, it could be anything, it could be Superman, it could certainly be anything like that. Now, I actually think that it's very interesting, this notion that we're going to get 2 WB Montreal games, hopefully close to one another. I may be, and I'm not in game design, so take this for what you will, but, it has been quite a while since we've seen a game from them, and fan anticipation for a game from that studio has been very high. So I guess you should take it as a compliment, what I'm saying, but I almost feel as though perhaps they could have focused very heavily on one game and then moved on to a second one. Of course, they know their studio better than me, and this is just me as a DC fan really wanting a game. So, that doesn't really mean anything, but I think that they're definitely doing things as a multi-game studio. They can do that because they're so large, but at the same point, it just has been quite a long time without a DC game. I'm not just talking about at WB Montreal. We're kind of putting all of the pressure on them because WB's not greenlighting any other DC games at other studios and, outside of Rocksteady and WB Montreal. Part of this is quality control because they don't want to have a huge surge of DC games and a lot of them be crappy. I totally understand that. But it has been quite a while since Arkham Knight, and Injustice 2 is a DC game as well, so I guess that's worth mentioning. So, it's definitely interesting to see that WB is clearly pacing off their games. So in 2015, we had Batman Arkham Knight. In 2017, we had Injustice 2. And, maybe we can see in 2013, we had Injustice 1. In 2011, we had Arkham City. 2009, Arkham Asylum. So since 2011, we've had a DC game every 2 years, meaning that since 2015, Arkham Knight, 2017, Injustice 2, and 2019... with, potentially a DC game from WB Games Montreal, I would be willing to bet money on that. But you could have asked me back in 2018, and I said, I would bet money that we'll get a DC game. So, I mean, who knows? Each year, it just becomes more inevitable in that way. But it is very interesting to see that Osama is confirming that they are still doing 2 games, and my hope is just that it will not affect a game release in 2019. And if they can keep up with that every 2-year release cycle with, keeping things active with their DC properties, excluding Injustice, and then, maybe go to a yearly thing. If you have 2 games in development from WB Montreal, if you have 1 game at Rocksteady, and you have Injustice 3 coming after MK11, just doing that math, it sounds like that's a lot more than 1 game every 2 years. That's sounding like 1 game per year to me. So that would be a winning formula for WB, because DC's strong suit over Marvel has always been their video game division. And Marvel Ultimate Alliance is great, and it's fine. Marvel vs. Capcom is good, but you can't really beat those DC games, namely those Arkham games. So for that reason, it would be a huge shame to see DC relinquish that. And it's not just a matter of beating Marvel. It's not about that, but it's just that DC has had such a strong fortitude in this realm, and for them to sacrifice that, or honestly blatantly ignore it, that would be quite disappointing. And I'm not saying that they're doing that, but it just would be unfortunate if they were to do that. But as I said, I don't believe they've been doing that. It's just a matter of, it's clear that WB has had some games that they tried that were canceled, which is fine. It happens in game development all the time. And in the case of Rocksteady, they're a 100-person studio, 120. So, it took them 4 years to make Arkham Knight. If they're making a Titans game, let's say, that's going to take a long time. They're going to have to build that from the ground up. They don't have that infrastructure built in. So, it's going to be an insurmountable challenge for that studio, and for any studio making a video game, actually. So, anyway, just pointing out that you're looking at that 2-year release cycle. That's definitely reassuring. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. What's your thoughts on the likelihood of seeing a DC game in 2019? Please let me know in the comment section below, and leave some of that speculation of what WB Montreal's second game is. I'll see you guys in the next one.